If it is or if it ain't, it's going to come out. Good morning, everybody. It's your girl, Miracle Sims, and you're listening to God, Sex, and Love. Your daily dose of inspiration, the juice. It is August the 18th, 2022, and today the topic is Abide and Sojourn. I had to make sure I say 2022, y'all, because I think I said 2021 yesterday, so my apologies, y'all. You know, everything since 2020 kind of blends together, right? But yeah, we're in 2022, 2022. Happy Thursday, and everything like that. Not too much happened yesterday. Just was getting some things in order around here. Um, Doing a lot of reorganization, I would say, with my clothing and all kinds of things like that. I shared in the after show about what I planned to do yesterday, and so got a lot of that done. Still working on some other stuff because I'm sorting through my stuff, NJ stuff, trying to get all the things that aren't going to work for us together, so we can either give or sell or whatever the case is. And so it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's a blessing, right? It's a good problem to have, because again, we can be a blessing to someone else. Um, and yeah, so looking forward to getting done with the task. There's something else I did yesterday, but I try to remember to tell y'all in the after show because it's not that important. It's just a self care little thing that I did yesterday as well. Outside of that, that's pretty much what the day looked like. Outside of doing that and being a mom, that's pretty much what I had going on yesterday. Um, but as for this morning, so I woke up at the sound of my alarm. Um, doing a little morning routine, get on up, turn on the light, do some things that'll help me wake up and focus and whatnot. And so sometimes I tend to scroll on social media. I think y'all should know that at this point. So I'm scrolling. And I came across this gig that I saw, I want to say earlier this week. I saw it, but then I lost it. And I was like, well, if I see it again, I'll look into it. So I saw it again. I saw it this morning. And so I just, submitted my information, and we're going to see what the Lord do. Um, Now, the interesting thing is, I think I've shared with you guys that, hey, I've been in this place where I feel like the Lord is telling me to wait. I feel like the Lord is telling me to just keep doing what I'm doing and everything like that. Every time I still look for jobs and stuff, I still go on Indeed every now and then and scroll and see, if there's anything that I could possibly do alongside everything that I'm currently doing. Um, but, usually those searches come back void. And I still feel like I'm in this place of waiting or whatnot. So again, this morning I did feel led to go ahead and just submit for the gig that I saw. But I don't know now that I received this word today. We gonna see. I don't know if it's for me or for you or whoever, but yeah, the words abide and sojourn stood out to me this morning. Basically, I listened to the prayer meditation, and it was talking about bearing good fruit, and I saw the word abide in the artwork, and then I'm listening to the prayer meditation and everything. Kind of, I ain't gonna lie, I was a little bit distracted, but by the time I started to get back focused and whatnot, um, and do the prayer alongside of it and things like that, the word abide stood out to me, and so I ended up looking up the definition of abide. And the interesting thing about it is, like, I looked up the definition, and then, like, right at under the definition, I saw biblical definition of abide means, and then I continued, because obviously this is what I'm doing, my Bible study. So I saw what the biblical definition said, and then I believe ultimately reading that and reading, I think, how they have sentences that kind of go along with the word, like use it in a sentence. I think that sentence or one of the sentences in the abide definition The biblical one had the word sojourn, and so I looked up the word sojourn, and the same thing happened. I looked up that word, I wrote down the definition, saw right under it again the biblical definition of sojourn means, and I read it and everything like that. So I have all of that for you all this morning, but that's where the topic came from today. Um, Perhaps this is a reminder for us to abide and sojourn. So let's see what that means this morning. So the word abide, the first definition I came across says accept or act in accordance with a rule, decision, or recommendation. Then the biblical definition says to remain stable or fixed in a state, to continue in a place. So already right there, just the definition alone. I mean, for somebody that's independent, right? For somebody that likes to do their own thing, that's probably not good information. You know, you probably don't want to hear that sometimes you need to abide, right? Sometimes you need to just stay where you are, or agree to, what's that definition say? Accept the what God is telling you, right? But let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's talk about this definition, sojourn. So I looked up the word sojourn, and it says a temporary stay. So I was like, okay, that's good news. At least, okay, if you're telling me to stay, at least it might be temporary, right? But then the biblical definition says this Hebrew term and its translations convey the basic idea that a person or group is residing either temporarily or permanently in a community and place that it is not their primarily their own, and is dependent on the goodwill of that community for their continued existence. Ooh. That's where it got a little quote unquote pulpy, right? A little information I probably didn't want to hear. Because again, the first the definition alone sound pretty good. It's like, okay, it makes me feel like, okay, you know, this place that I'm in is gonna be temporary. But when you looked up that biblical account, it's, as you can see, it mentions that it might be permanent, and, and I'm like, oh Lord, because I mean, again, like, if I just refer to myself, I could always just tell my testimony. So if I think about this place that I'm in now, on one hand, I'm totally comfortable where I'm at in regards to, you know, being content and just being like, all right, Lord, well, whatever you want to do, because He is providing. Like, I know I told y'all, what was it, Monday? I told y'all today, you know, finances X, Y, and Z. You know, I think I might have shared that with y'all, but if not, yeah, finance was looking kind of like, well, okay, I got some things I want to do, but you know. And then next thing I know, you know, blessings was coming in places where, you know, wasn't expected. You know, maybe some were expected and some not expected, but that's how it's been this whole season for me. And whatnot. It's been like, all right, Lord, well, I ain't got nothing. Then on the flip side, it's like, well, okay, here go a little something to work with and whatnot. And so, yeah, being in this place where God is having me to wait, right, has not been all bad, you know. Because obviously, again, with me waiting and with me being in this season, I've been able to see God working, see God moving, see God doing things in my life, the unexplainable, quote unquote, you know. And I know some people might just be like, oh, well, that's a coincidence, or oh, whatever, whatever. But I just know for me, I can't look at it like that. You know, I don't look at it like that at the end of the day. You know, I know what I've done, right? And I know what God is doing. And I say I'm not doing much, because I do feel like I am doing something in this season, but I'm not doing what I quote unquote usually would do, or quote unquote what the world thinks we should do in regards to how to live and stuff. So, you know, sometimes, right? Sometimes we might be in that season where we need to not only abide and listen to what God is saying, accept it, and walk accordingly. But sometimes we might need to be a sojourner. You know, be a sojourner. You know, again, this is unfamiliar territory to me, right? Again, for somebody that was doing this gig and that gig and going here and going there and, you know, working here and working there, to be in a place of like, hey, stay home and do some work, um, is a foreign land, as people would say, you know, it's foreign territory, right? But at the same time, you know, again, I have to both sojourn and abide. And so that's where, again, the topic came from today. Those are the definitions, both the biblical ones and the I guess you would say secular ones or whatever the case is. So let's see what the Bible has to say about abide and sojourn. So, okay, so First John 2 and 6, it says, whoever says he abides in him ought to walk in the same way in which he walked. Now, when I read that this morning, I was like, ooh, okay, Lord. And because this is one of those things that, again, just puts things into perspective. It's like, again, we love what Jesus did, but we don't do what he says. Um, you know, we love talking about, again, what Jesus did, but then it's like we're not listening to him. We don't do the things he say, and we don't be Christ-like, right? Obviously Christians should be Christ-like. That's what the whole thing is supposed to be. So I ain't gonna lie now, this came across my mind this morning. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to go for no ministry or nothing, but when I wrote this verse down this morning, I was thinking about, the way that Christ lived. He wasn't, at least I don't recall information about him being covered in jewels and asking for tons and offerings and stuff like that. Like I'm just, now that might be Pope, right? For ministries that go around doing things like that. But yeah, I don't recall him living that way. From what I'm understanding, he lived a very modest life, right? He was traveling around, and whatnot. And so, I mean, that's one thing. That is one thing. But not even just like how he lived, but like the things he did, how he treated people, how he talked to people, like all of that type of stuff. I feel like it's important. I feel like that's what was standing out to me when I read that verse this morning. That again, whoever says he abides in him ought to walk in the same way in which he walked. Matthew 6 and 37 says, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. This is not an unfamiliar verse here on the Juice. I know I've shared this multiple times. I've read this multiple times. But I mean, hey, it stood out to me this morning, I guess, because at the end of the day, again, it puts things into perspective. Like, I need to focus on the things of God, and then, all the other things will come, in its time. And that's what I've been seeing in my life. And if you're going to abide, like, that's what you have to trust. That's what you have to do, put your focus on what it say here. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. So let's keep going, y'all. 2 Timothy 2 and 12, it says, if we endure, we will also reign with him. If we deny him, he also will deny us. Ooh, that might be Pope, y'all. That might be something we don't want to. I mean, I don't want to be on the negative end of that personally. But I mean, again, this is what it says. If we endure, if we abide in him and everything like that, then, we will reign with him. But on the flip side, if we deny, then he's going to deny. And, we might think our denial is small now, but I guess until we get to that, hey, I never knew you point. And then, I mean, I guess we'll see how serious it is. But it's just something to think about, y'all. Just something to think about. Now, I guess I ended up reading a lot about the word abide. So once I started to look up verses centered around sojourn, they weren't necessarily resonating. And so I ended up looking up verses centered around the word sojourner, which is funny because, hey, shout out to my father-in-law. His name is Sojourner, and I got a brother-in-law named Sojourner as well. But yeah, when I looked up the word sojourner, I looked up verses centered around that word, I was more so kind of looking for something to show that, hey, sometimes, some seasons, you might have to be in a place that is foreign to you, right? You might have to stay somewhere, like that definition was saying, reside there either temporarily or permanently, right? And so I was trying to look for examples of that. Because as I was looking up that word, I saw a lot of information about like how we should treat sojourners, or how in particular the Israelites should treat them and whatnot. So there are verses that are centered around that in the Go Deeper section, but I was like, let's focus on like us being a sojourner and what would that mean and whatnot. And so I came across Genesis 15 and 13, and it says, then the Lord said to Abram, know for certain that your offspring will be journeying into a land that is not theirs, and will be servants there, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. Ooh, ooh. Now, for some people, especially these days, if something, or if you're sojourning for 400 years, that might be permanent, right? That might be your entire lifetime. Because I don't think anybody's hitting those numbers these days. Um, I think people really get excited and celebrate when people live to past 100. These days. So yeah, so that might be Pope, right? That might be like, ooh, 400 years. That probably was not good news for Abram. He probably was like, ooh, I mean, okay, but, again, sometimes that might be our season. Now, maybe it won't be as long as 400 years. Like, maybe my situation won't be as long as 400. I don't know. I don't know what the Lord going to do with me when it comes to that. But, sometimes, again, it might be a temporary stay or permanent. But, um, sometimes we just going to have to abide and go with what the Lord is doing. So that's just the one verse that I have that's centered around sojourn or sojourner. But obviously you guys can go deeper with this. There's more verses in the go deeper section to peruse and let marinate on your heart, souls, and minds about this. But the Bible verse of today is Proverbs 22:4. It says, by humility and fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. Friends, I hope you all enjoyed this juice this morning. And just in case, y'all, let me just put on the record that I might have wrote honesty. So y'all go read Proverbs 22:4 by yourself. Because again, my chicken scratch, I don't even know. It's either humility or honesty is one of those that I wrote for that. So go and look at what that word actually is for yourself and everything like that. But regardless, I hope that you all enjoyed this juice this morning. And I look forward to talking to y'all tomorrow, which y'all know that tomorrow is Friday. And hey, man, a special thing going on GSL tomorrow. Man, we got a panel discussion on the schedule, y'all. A panel discussion. So we will be live tomorrow, chit-chatting with a panel of both men and women. And we are going to be tackling and talking about this subject of abortion. Yeah, man, abortion and the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Y'all know that is a recent development here in the U.S. of A. And hot button topic. We've been, and I know it's kind of fizzling, people aren't necessarily talking about it anymore. But my thing is, I'm going to talk, I wanted to talk about it anyway because, well, one, I'm glad that we got a mixed panel because the last time we talked about this on GSL, we only had one brave gentleman come to the conversation. And so this time we have both men and women. We might have differing opinions. I'm not sure yet, but I guess we'll see. But if so, if people on different pages with their opinions, I mean, obviously GSL is a place to feel free and talk about all that. And so, yeah, tune in 7 p.m. tomorrow live to our chat with the following individuals. We've got the panel people, Miss Denise Gilbert, Mr. Neil Newman. We have Rashawn Kusar and Miss Summer Sims joining us for that conversation tomorrow at 7. So, yeah, be on the lookout for that. And, yeah, y'all, I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. And I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow if the Lord's will. See y'all later, Papa. Well, I won't see you, but I guess talk to y'all later, podcast people. Bye-bye. Check out our friends at mailandmeat.com for beautifully handcrafted, Afrocentric greeting cards and so much more. That's mailandmeat.com.